let me introduce our speaker today. Terry Rawson is a senior account executive here at Adventist Risk Management. He works in the client care department and works with a variety of clients around the world, presenting both risk management and insurance solutions to them. Terry, welcome to our webinar today.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it.
All right, let me just go ahead and turn things over to you.
All right. Well, I appreciate this opportunity, and like David said, it is a bit of a recap of a presentation that was done last year, but transportation is a very important issue within the church, and it's always good to get a refresher and bring these things to the forefront. This is designed specifically for safety officers at maybe the local church or the local school. There's a lot of things that a safety officer is asked to do. One of those is inspections of your facilities, doing the self-assessment inspections and oversight of that project. Also, maintenance oversight of the facilities to make sure that things are properly maintained in a good fashion. Crisis planning is also an important aspect of what you're asked to do as a safety officer, setting up the program, working with administration in developing crisis planning. Incident reviews, where you're looking at what took place and how we can prevent losses in the future. And activity reviews, that's what we're going to really be concentrating on today, and specifically as it relates to transportation. And also in the area of child protection. We won't be addressing that specifically in this presentation, but it is a part of your responsibility at the local church or local school. But we want to look here at three different aspects of church-owned vehicle use. The first one is the use of the vehicle, and then we'll want to look at the repair, the maintenance of those vehicles, and driver selection. So those are three aspects that we'll be looking at today. First, we want to look at the use of the vehicle, and we look at the tool principle, which is, are you utilizing your vehicle in the way that it is designed to be used? For instance, the picture on the left, and these are actual pictures that some of our folks internationally have taken, where they're using the luggage rack on this vehicle as a transportation of an individual on the left. And the one on the right, maybe a little bit overloaded and not the proper use of the vehicle, being that the pickup is sitting on the ground, basically.
I've actually experienced that. What's depicted in that picture, I have seen and experienced myself. So that is not an extreme example. That does happen regularly. Hopefully not here in the United States, though.
Yeah, maybe. We definitely see it a lot on our mission trips.
Right.
And, we're being held at the standard as we are here in the States. When we take students and individuals on mission trips, those claims will be brought back in the U.S. And there's an expectation that we will adhere to the same laws in this country as they would be internationally. So we need to keep that in mind on mission trips. And we do see this type of thing where they're transporting our kids to different sites in these types of vehicles. So we have to be very careful in the planning process to make sure that we're using the appropriate vehicles for the transportation of our kids. Now, you ask whether we have it here in the U.S. This is an example of what takes place. This is a candid picture of two of our safety officers at Oshkosh in 2009. You'll see that they're posing there for the picture, but if you look in the background, what do we have? We have a pickup truck riding through the camp with at least six individuals standing on the back of the pickup truck.
What makes it worse is, that's a small picture, and I'm not absolutely certain, but it looks to me as though those are probably not staff. Those are kids.
Yes. And it being a large facility, it's a quick way to get from one point to another. Jump in the back of a pickup truck, and sure beats walking sometimes in their minds. So it does happen. We have a camporee coming up here this year, so we'll be paying special attention there. And you, as safety officers, need to remind those that are participating in this event about these types of safety issues. We see this everywhere at camps. That happens quite often, outings and mission trips, as we talked previously. We need to make sure that the vehicle is used as intended. The number of seat belts should dictate the number of riders. Very simple. You don't just pack a car full of individuals. You can squeeze them in, especially if they're small passengers. But if they don't have a seat belt, they should not be utilizing that vehicle. So no seat belt, no passenger. Do not overload the vehicle. Make sure that it adheres to the gross vehicle weight of the vehicle being used. Maintenance is also very important. Doing pre-trip inspections. A sample is here to the right on some of the things that you should do pre-trip. Check the fluid levels, the belts, the hoses, tire pressures, all the very important aspects. Check the lights, the turn signals, your brake lights. Make sure that your lights are on and functioning appropriately.
You know, Terry, I was looking through that list earlier, and I thought to myself, well, who does that? Who actually goes and, like jumped in my own car to drive here to the office today, and of course, I didn't do any of that.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have, but then I certainly thought back to my academy days, and I thought of how many times were we stranded on the road. Like, it was many times. And I think especially when you're looking at a church organization, an academy, or whatnot, you're talking about transporting multiple people. This is a very appropriate activity to take very seriously.
Absolutely.
It starts to make a lot of sense.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's so important because look who you're transporting.
Right.
These are my kids, your kids, and that's precious cargo.
Yeah.
And so it's vitally important, especially for these events. Another aspect is doing post-trip inspections, documenting the problems, and making sure that they get fixed. Because you don't want to document the problem and then don't fix it, and then later on have an issue, and then those documents can be used against us. So you need to make sure that they're followed through and used appropriately and solve the problems. Tires are a big issue. We see this a lot. I'll be going around. I work specifically with NAD colleges and universities, and I'll go through their fleet of vehicles in their maintenance yard and see issues with tires. These are buses, small transport vehicles that are transporting students here and there, and I'll find vehicles that the tire wear is definitely an issue. Whether it's underinflation, correct, you'll see the different examples, overinflated, just the wear, you'll find a lot of issues. So tires are an important aspect. You want to avoid blowouts, and these will definitely lead to some of those issues. You want to make sure that the car is adequately aligned so it doesn't pull left or right, because if you take your hands off the wheel or distracted, you could get in an accident very quickly. Tire separation, you see this a lot in trailers especially, and we do haul trailers. And because what happens is these trailers sit out in the sun and are exposed to the sun and other weather, and they deteriorate. And blowouts are a big issue with trailers, so make sure that your trailers tires are adequate as well, and you have tire separation. Then make sure that your spare tires are in good shape. If you do have a flat, you need to change it. You better hope that it has air in it. and is in good order. You should make sure that you do at least biannual tune-ups on your owned vehicles, uh, especially if they're used on a regular basis, and it could be more often that. Make sure that you use a certified mechanic. That's a very important aspect, to make sure that it's being properly maintained. You want to care for identified issues. We talked about that a little bit. If you find an issue, fix it. Drivers is the next section that we want to talk about. And you need to make sure that the individual is properly licensed for the vehicle. I know in the state of California that any van in excess of 10 passengers requires a CDL license. So in California, you need to make sure, and every state is different, so you need to make sure that you know what laws are in your local area, and that you have the proper licensing. NAD working policy addresses the issue of age for drivers. It is 21 years of age or older, unless it's specifically approved by a conference officer to allow younger drivers, but not less than 19. It's important because you have to understand the maturity level of the individual. That's why we strongly recommend 21 and older, because oftentimes the younger drivers aren't at a maturity level to safely transport our students. And it also addresses that there should be no more than 2 traffic citations and no at-fault accidents. You get that by running MVRs, motor vehicle records, on these drivers that are going to be driving on behalf of your institution. They're easy to get. If you go down to the Department of Motor Vehicles and ask for your MVR and have them bring it to your institution, you can have those on record. So you need to make sure that they don't, and it would address whether they have traffic citations and at-fault accidents or accidents. It's getting more and more difficult to know whether they're at-fault accidents, at least in the state of California where I'm from, because they don't identify that specifically. So that's getting to be more of a challenge. But it is important that you do your due diligence. If you can, hands-on observation, or if you know the individual, you've ridden with the individual, make sure that they're good drivers before you allow them to transport your students or parishioners. And if you can, if they go through periodic defensive driving refresher courses. Distracted driving is a huge thing. It's on the news all the time, especially in light of the newest texting issues. It will be interesting to see what the next technology issue will be, but texting is the big thing right now. You see it on billboards as you're driving down the freeways now. No texting, ticket $270 for texting and driving. Anyway, it's important that when we're transporting our folks that we avoid the use of cell phones, texting, eating or drinking, reading papers. There's lots of things that you see people in the car next to you doing that aren't appropriate. Looking at maps, that type of thing. And of course, children that are loud and bouncing around the vehicles is always distracting. There are ways to avoid that. Having additional supervision in the vehicle is also helpful, so you can concentrate on your driving. It's good if you can establish a policy on distracted driving that it is not allowed. Hands-free is something that many folks are allowing. It's still a distraction. It takes you away from your concentration of the road and the safety. If you get a phone call and you don't have another individual in the car, pull over somewhere where it's safe and take the car if it's important. or pass the phone to another occupant to answer. It's, like I mentioned previously, additional supervision in the vehicle is excellent. If you can have someone that can answer the phone or be your navigator or help supervise the children so you can concentrate on driving. Use of personal vehicles for church business is a challenge. It needs to be known and make sure that they clearly understand that their own personal insurance is primary. We don't recommend the use of personal vehicles. You don't know how those vehicles are maintained. If you are utilizing personal vehicles, do a pre-trip inspection on those vehicles before they leave your area, if at all possible. But they need to clearly understand that their insurance is primary, and that involves both the liability side and the physical damage side. On the physical damage, there is no excess that sits on top of that. They are on the hook. If they don't carry physical damage, comprehensive and collision, then there is no coverage here for it. We oftentimes get those questions that, or a conference or a school will get the question, well, we used our vehicle for your activity and we got in an accident and I don't have comprehensive or collision coverage, and can you help me cover the vehicle? Does your insurance cover it? The insurance does not provide the physical damage coverage. Your insurance would provide excess liability coverage, which is third-party liability. So if you're insured rear ends someone else's vehicle, it would provide the coverage in excess of your liability coverage of whatever above your limits that you carry. There's some things that that is recommended. One of the things is to make a copy of the driver's license for anybody that is transporting your individuals with their personal vehicles, and proof of their insurance card. It's also recommended that they carry limits of $100,000 per person, $300,000 per occurrence. That's fairly standard, and it's not that expensive above what you normally would see what state minimum requirements are. State minimum in the state of California is only $15,000 that you're required to carry. And if you rear end a Mercedes, that's not going to go very far. 15,000 is nothing, let alone any bodily injuries on top of that. So they do recommend that you carry 100,000 per person, 300,000 per occurrence. And then the church's policy, if you're utilizing your vehicle for church use, it would sit on top of your limits. So you would still be protected above the 300,000 per occurrence. So you want to make sure that they also have good driving records, and you do that through the motor vehicle record checks, that they do not overload the vehicles, and that they have proper seatbelt use, and make sure that they're utilizing their seatbelts. Just the other day, I was driving out of our office in Riverside, and one of the local academies was driving out with a team to go to another area. And they have shoulder belts, and you could clearly see that the passengers were not utilizing their shoulder belts. So make sure before you leave the parking lot that everyone has their seatbelts on. It's very important. With regards to 15-passenger vans, it's been an ongoing recommendation. I think we've made quite a bit of progress here to phase these out. Please do not purchase any more 15-passenger vans, if at all possible. And we highly recommend that you do not rent them. Enterprise rental car, they will rent you anything. Are you properly licensed for a 15-passenger van? In the state of California, as I mentioned previously, they'll rent it to you, but if you're not properly licensed, they're not going to check that. So please do not rent 15-passenger vans for safety reasons. At this point, until the Department of Transportation comes out with other recommendations that they identify them as safe now. There's anti-roll systems in place now, but with all the negative publicity, it just increases the potential liability to the church. So we want to phase those out. If you happen to be one of the few that still have a 15-passenger van, we prohibit, or I'd say it is prohibited for drivers under age 21 to use them. We recommend that they have at least 3 years of experience in that type of vehicle. These are very difficult vehicles to drive. They're difficult to turn. They just handle a lot different than a regular car. Parking them is also an issue. So we get backed into this, backed into that, because they're a lot longer and more difficult to maneuver in small parking lots. So we also recommend, if you are still utilizing a 15-passenger van, that they have a commercial driver's license and that they have a good driving record through the MVR checks. And there are training programs, online training programs for 15-passenger vans if you still are utilizing, but I'm hoping most everybody has phased those out of their programs. So the items that we've discussed today is repair. We've talked about drivers and use of the vehicles. There's a couple of resources, and there's more available, a lot more available online. But there's, in our solutions online, there's an article of 7 steps to increase your auto safety. And the link is provided here. We'll provide it as a PDF. So when it's put on the webcast, and then you'll be able to click on it and go right to our website where this article is located. But I wanted to provide you that. And also within the risk control plan, there's a whole section on vehicle programs and safety that gets into a lot more detail of what we've discussed here briefly. But it's about an 11-page document that I think you'll find very helpful. So hopefully you've found this helpful, and we're all in this together. And should you have any questions, talk to your risk manager. We're happy to discuss these with you, or submit, questions, and we'll address those as we can.
Thank you so much, Terry. If anyone does have questions right now, this is a great time to be typing them in. I've addressed a few in regards to the resources, how they'll be available after the meeting already. And just to remind everyone, we are recording this meeting, and we'll make that available to you on our YouTube channel and on our website for you to listen and look at the presentation anytime, or share the presentation with someone who might not have been able to attend here today. And also, as Terry was saying, we will make a PDF of the presentation available on our website as well, so that you can just click on the links or review the material in that format. I want to let you know about an upcoming topic, and that is on March 30th, we're doing a presentation on preparing for storms. This is specifically dealing with hurricanes, tornadoes, some of the more catastrophic types of storms that we seem to be experiencing more and more frequently. So I really do hope that you will plan to join us for that presentation. If you are looking for more safety resources, please visit our website, adventisrisk.org, and especially I hope that you will sign up for Solutions, which is our weekly newsletter covering topics like we just spoke of, 7 steps to automobile safety. Every week we have a new topic, and it's all very specifically written and designed for the Seventh-day Adventist Church and the church's organizations. This is not just stuff pulled off the internet that we recycle. It is designed specifically for your use, for church safety officers. We're getting started with 2014. This is the second webinar of 2014. I want to ask everyone a favor. Please reach out to your fellow safety officers, your deacons, your ministry leaders at your churches, your pastors, your conference leaders. Let them know that this resource is in place. The webinars, the solutions newsletters, uh, invite them to join. Share the newsletter with them. Share the invite for the webinar. We are working on building more and more resources of just this type. Last time we spoke about the maintenance planning, which went over. David Rawson shared a very, very good presentation on maintenance planning and the tools that we've prepared to assist you in that process. Please invite everyone you possibly can to join us so that we can really spread the message and awareness of safety, so we can really make a difference in our churches and schools, so that everybody can benefit from fewer accidents. Always hard to measure fewer accidents, but I tell you what, it is worth the effort anyway. With that, let me address a few questions here. Are there going to be any more of the church safety webinars given? I tell you what, we have an entire calendar year planned ahead. Every month there is a church safety webinar planned. Next month is, as I said, preparing for storms, but other topics we have coming up again are things like, let me think really quick here. I wish I had the list in front of me, but we do have the church self-inspections. We have fire safety. Just the I really should have brought the list here in front of me, but it is a complete list of topics for the entire year. And of course, we plan to go not just this year, but continue on an ongoing way. A few of these presentations we might repeat because they bear repeating, but we are also adding in some other presentations. I know I'm on the schedule this year to do one on church media risks. So with your church website and copyright issues, with streaming issues, use of imagery, social media policies and programs, and that kind of thing as another topic. You'd think I would have remembered to add my own topic to the list there when I was, but yes, there will be a full schedule of webinars. Here's the one specifically about transportation. Another question. Regarding rented vehicles, what is covered by our Gen Con insurance card? What about loss of use? Terry?
Typically, that is, from the claims perspective, that is always reported from the rental car company that they have a loss of use cost on there. And that typically is covered. Oftentimes our claims folks will negotiate that to be a lesser amount because they typically have that as a very high value. And so they work through that process from the claims department, but typically that is covered.
Okay. This is again in general about the webinar series itself. Are all of the previous topics archived, or how long are they archived? We've done our best. I believe every webinar we've done so far has been archived and is available on our website, on our YouTube channel. And we do have two series of webinars. One is this series, the Safety Officer series. I think this is where the meat and bones of safety really takes place. And we have another series which is more of an administrative perspective for like your conference leadership, dealing with maybe employment practices and some of the more high-level administrative stuff. And so we have both of those in a playlist on our YouTube channel, but also if you look under the menu item prevention on our website, you'll find webinars and you'll see those two series listed there with all of there's a little YouTube icon beside every heading, and you can go and review every single one of those. Um, so those are always available, and we're not planning on taking them down.
Yep.
As far as I know. Okay, I think that's it for questions. So I just want to say thank you again, Terry, for sharing with us today. And thank you, everyone, for your great questions and for joining us and taking safety seriously and partnering with us at your local church or organization.